You can see it in their eyes. Sense it in every movement. They are the special players who forever alter the course of NBA history, pushing the game to its limits and beyond.
The NBA Commemorative Collection presents Milestones, record breakers of the NBA.
Ellis, and there you go. Magic dribbling, he's around one, he's around two, give the ball to Green, slam dunk.
And again at his cheeks picking it off, and here comes Barkley. Inside of Kareem, double up, swing the sky, hook,
Listen, get in here.
It is said that in 1891, Dr. James Naismith fathered a new sport. But astonishingly, archaeological findings whose origins predate Naismith's birth by nearly 15 centuries show that an advanced civilization of Mayan Indians engaged in a contest that was an unmistakable precursor to the game we now know as basketball. Absent then were the prolific scorers of our modern era. For though scoring was literally a do-or-die situation, the game's final tally was always 1-0, with the captain of the losing team customarily beheaded. These days, the stakes aren't quite as high, and the scores aren't quite as low, as a legion of spectacular offensive performers now light up NBA scoreboards with the greatest of ease.
It's like you're shooting and you're putting your hand in the basket, and as it goes through, you're taking your hand out. He can't stop you. He can't stop you, Irvin. He can't stop you.
And in this new age of basketball, these explosive scorers stalk their opponents with a seemingly limitless arsenal of offensive weaponry.
If I get the ball, you're at mercy of whatever I want to do. I can actually do anything I want.
I play to have that one moment out there where I just take over the game and I know I got control of everything that goes on out there.
Bird takes Rambert. 1 second. It's out.
In the NBA's inaugural season in 1946, the league's first super scorer was Jumpin' Joe Fultz. And immediately, the Philadelphia forward left his mark on the record books, becoming the first player to score over 1,000 points in one season.
Well, I do know that you had an all-time record, 1,611 points your first year. That's 23-plus average per game. Brother, that's really a lot of points.
But Fultz was not the only impact player of his era. Minneapolis's imposing center, George Mikan, also showed an eye for the hoop as he utilized his tireless work ethic to capture 3 consecutive scoring titles.
My philosophy of playing was do the best you can do at all times so you have no regrets. I hear a lot of guys say, oh, I could have done better. I couldn't do any better. I may have made 4 points, may have made 50 points, but that was the best I could do at that time.
But a lot more goes into a World's Championship than just individual talent.
With brawny Vern Mickelson and a talented supporting cast playing behind Mikan, the Lakers brought Minneapolis the NBA's first dynasty by winning 3 straight World Championships. Overmatched by the powerful Lakers, opponents took to stalling, a tactic which resulted not only in history's lowest scoring game, but also in a major rule change.
And the good news of that whole deal is that that was the game that precipitated the use of the 24-second clock.
The league's newest innovation ushered in a different style of play, one whose faster pace not only had fans flocking to arenas, but also grabbed the media's attention. The time was right for the emergence of another celebrated superstar. Wilt Chamberlain entered the NBA in 1959 and promptly took center stage, capturing an unprecedented 7 consecutive scoring titles. But it was in one fateful game that perhaps Wilt's most monumental feat was performed, an accomplishment all the more staggering considering the contest was never completed.
But that's one of maybe the few games in the history of the NBA that never, ever finished. it was still 46 to 50 seconds on that clock when I scored 100 points. But since that's all the fans wanted and the officials felt like that was enough to, said the game was over.
The historical night was over, but Chamberlain had only begun as he went on to shatter every conceivable scoring record.
The Big Dipper becomes the highest scoring player in the history of the National Basketball Association. Retired Bob Pettit had been tops in this department until Wilt broke the record against the Detroit Pistons at Charleston, West Virginia on February 14th. You might say Wilt played his heart out that night.
After dominating offensively for 9 inspiring seasons with the Warriors and the 76ers, Wilt joined the LA Lakers and began gaining notoriety for other facets of his game. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee, a young Lou Alcindor boldly set about seizing the title of basketball's most prolific scorer. Armed with the most devastating offensive weapon.
Gets it back from John McLaughlin. He wheels it back onto the left. Turnaround skyhook from 6. It's good! And Milwaukee now leads the ball game.
Skyhook was thought up by Eddie Doucette, who wanted to describe my shot to the fans that were listening on the radio in Milwaukee. Whatever your shot is, you have to have it at a point where you can rely on it. It requires constant maintenance, and I've always tried to keep it sharp.
Kareem Skyhook is, to me, synonymous with the cruise missile. There's only one of them, and when we get in dire straits, you'll see Irvin Johnson or myself do one thing, and that is put the fist in the air.
Kareem being leaned upon by Lane Beer. Kareem backing in, swing left, shoot right, 12-footer, that's good.
In his 15th season, Jabbar and his majestic hook were poised to make history as Wilt's once seemingly insurmountable all-time scoring record was now within reach.
And here comes the big guy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
If he plays like he did in the first quarter, he'll have the record by halftime.
Magic walks it to the right side. 7 minutes left, third quarter. Inside to Kareem. Double up, swing to Skyhook. Yes! And the fans love it. Magic right side. Kareem post up. They go to Kareem. Kareem backs in. Hook shot. It's up. It's good. It's good. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 31,420 points for the greatest center in modern basketball history, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
But Kareem best beware. For as long as Michael Jordan rules the airways, no record is safe. And if Chicago's Superman maintains his torrid scoring clip for the duration of an identical 20-year career, he would amass over 55,000 points, eclipsing Jabbar's final number by 17,000. But before Jordan's fire scorched NBA hardwoods, there was Gervin's ice. In 1976, the Iceman had cometh to the NBA, bringing an unearthly grace to shot-making and blurring the line between myth and reality.
The Iceman is real, and I really truly believe that. I've always been in a situation where I had to score. That was a part of our game plan. It was me to put the ball in the basket, and that's exactly what I did.
Putting the deep freeze on opponents, the 6'7" Gervin proved to be a forerunner of other dominant big guards, as this cool customer went on to capture 3 consecutive scoring titles.
I have gained a lot of respect, and a lot of people admire me from winning that scoring title. But I really like to be known as a complete player and as a winner.
But the Iceman may be most remembered for his record-breaking 33-point outburst in 1 quarter. Not far behind in the run-and-gun West is former perennial All-Star David Thompson, whose aerial exploits helped him register 32 points in a single period. The third quarter belongs to Eric Sleepy Floyd, who in the 1987 postseason shredded the world champion Lakers for 29 in a memorable playoff performance.
How many has he scored in the quarter of their total points? I think all but 2.
He has broken the NBA record for most points in a quarter.
And the final stanza is owned by the indomitable Wilt Chamberlain, who is the record holder for the highest fourth-quarter output with 31. Though receiving distinction for only 12 minutes of offensive brilliance, these four men have put their personal brand on NBA history. In the sometimes bizarre world of the NBA, it is always prudent to expect the unexpected. Because the strange magic that can suddenly seize entire teams in its grip rarely gives warning and can almost never be explained. When the Denver Nuggets and the Detroit Pistons took the floor early in the 1984 season, both teams got off to a torrid start. But little did they know that 370 points and 3 overtimes later, they would wearily enter the record books, having played the highest scoring game in NBA history.
There was a lot of running up and down the floor, and it seemed like nobody could miss.
Up by Dunn, the Vandeway, the Anderson up and in. All right, here comes Isaiah on the run. Isaiah stop and go.
It got to be everyone's in such a group shooting. I think there were 3 guys who scored over 50 points in the game.
Come the Pistons. Spinning down the lane. Vinny running. Right-hander, yes. Right away, up and in.
Up by 2 with seconds remaining, Denver thought the game was over. It wasn't.
He bangs it off the iron. Isaiah rebounds up and in.
In fact, the fun was only beginning, as Denver took the lead again in the first overtime and again saw it slip away.
We are tied at 159.
2 overtimes later, Detroit would ultimately triumph. But fittingly, the final score was not decided until the final buzzer.
The Pistons win this thing in Denver.
Both teams were wiped out for about 3 days. I think both teams lost about 3 or 4 in a row straight.
3 years later in Los Angeles, the Sacramento Kings fell under a different sort of spell, while the Lakers reeled off 29 points to begin the game. The Kings reeled off none. And though their bewitched state lasted only a period, their first quarter tally of only 4 points set the standard for futility.
It was unbelievable for them as well as us to be up, 29-0?
But ironically, though the Kings are history's most helpless in 12 minutes, they are its most prolific in 5, having piled up 24 points in a single overtime in the 1990 season.
You know, the game against Houston.
Look out below! Antoine Park. Upper rainbow shot, no good. But Craig with a skip back, yes! No NBA arena has seen more miracles than Boston Garden, the shrine of Celtic success, whose fabled leprechauns seem to help one team find the secret of invincibility.
Everybody's personalities add to the team, and that's what makes this a good team, is there's 12 individual personalities, but they all mesh together and they all blend together, and you become somewhat of a family.
Led by Larry Bird, the 1986 version of the Celtic family defended their home like no other team in history, posting an astounding 40-1 record in their own arena. They added a new chapter to Celtic lore and to the NBA record books.
The only thing I can say for this team is that if there's any other team that was any better, them guys on that team would be very proud of what they accomplished, because we felt we had a pretty good basketball team.
In the decade of the 60s, the Lakers searched in vain for the secret of the Celtics' magic elixir of success.
After so many years of getting so close, of losing to Boston and 6 or 7 games. I mean, every year Boston seemed to beat us.
And with Elgin Baylor's retirement early in the 1972 season, time seemed to have passed L.A. by.
You got a shot before you complete the play? Take it.
But with Coach Bill Sharman preaching a new philosophy, this Laker team would make a crucial adjustment. While Wilt Chamberlain would remain their primary weapon,
these Lakers would use a more balanced attack. And as the victories mounted, they began to realize that the elusive winning formula was finally theirs.
No one can beat us. And we went along and went along and went along. 1 month went by, 2 months went by. All of a sudden, it's 2.5 months we haven't lost a basketball game. And it got to be almost funny because we knew no one could beat us. As we got into the beginning of the winning streak, the real confidence that we had as a team, we walked out on the court and we knew we were going to win.
We did not have this awesome talent, but we played well together. Bill Sharman, who was an incredible winner, instilled within us something that we needed. And when you win 33 games in a row, when you go 2.5, 3 months without losing a game, and against teams that really are superior to you, for that Laker team to do what they did, I still think that they did more in the game of basketball than any other team for the talent that they had.
Running off an unprecedented 33-game win streak en route to a record 69-win season and a world championship, the Lakers completed their magical transformation into one of history's greatest teams.
When I look back on that year, we should have probably only lost 6 or 7 games that whole year. That team was not going to be denied.
Beneath the basket, they battle. Vying to control the elusive sphere, their struggles often reach epic proportions. Make no mistake, rebounding is not for the faint of heart.
Box out! Box out!
The iron-willed Moses Malone. His first commandment, thou shalt attack the offensive boards with regularity and with a passion.
But see, I love the rebound. I love the offensive rebound.
Skeptics decree that the #1 career leader in offensive rebounds pads his personal statistics by purposely misfiring and then grabbing his misses. Moses says otherwise.
No, I don't try to miss some shot. People be saying that I'm trying to miss a shot. I be trying to put that ball in.
Although his most heralded accomplishments involved putting the ball in, Wilt is also the all-time rebounding king, having corralled nearly 24,000 boards in his illustrious career.
And you know you were going out there doing your job. Because even though I was considered a scoring machine, you know, you can't score without the ball.
And with the ball in his hands, Chamberlain could also find the open man.
Every time I passed the ball up to someone, it was almost for a sure basket.
In 1968, Wilt's passing proficiency enabled him to become the only center in NBA history to lead the league in assists. For 8 consecutive seasons, the spectacular Bob Cousy was the top assist man in the NBA. And the trademark of his greatness was the unconventional style in which Boston's dazzling showman played the game.
Well, Cousy and I had an understanding. I didn't care how he threw the ball, as long as somebody caught it.
Throughout his celebrated career, Cousy's masterful passing helped the Celtics achieve time-honored prosperity. But with the vision-blurring speed that Utah's John Stockton piles up assists, every passing mark may be in jeopardy as this premier playmaker thrives in the transition game.
I definitely get most through out of a perfectly run fast break.
Well, when you see John with the ball, you're thinking, just get out in the passing lane. He's going to give it back to you.
If we have guys filling the lanes and somebody finish us off the play with authority, I think that's the most exciting for me.
Stockton on the breakaway to the middle, right side, Bailey for the hammer.
In bringing fast-breaking excitement to Utah, the 6'1" Stockton compiled a record number of assists for one season. And with his compelling play, he follows in the footsteps of his tiny predecessor, Nate Archibald, whose blinding quickness dismantled defenses. His special talents were no secret to opponents. as in the 1973 season he became the only man to ever win scoring and assist titles in the same year. The legendary Oscar Robertson was the prototype of the versatile guard.
And I didn't really go about to set goals like that, but I was just playing basketball, trying to help my team win.
An awesomely complete offensive weapon, Robertson was a preview of what was to come in later years.
I think he was like sort of ahead of his time in the things that he did.
And while paving the way for future stars, the Big O stands alone as the only player to average a triple-double in one season. Enter the magical kingdom of Irvin Johnson, sharing his enchanting talents with others. This modern-day master of the triple-double specializes in the spectacular.
The ball into Tigo. There it is. He got it. What a shot. What a pass. What an assist. All-time leader, Magic Johnson.
Magic's formidable adversary, Larry Bird, also possesses mesmerizing all-court skills. Still, one particular record managed to elude him.
Bird cuts through, backside.
At the blow of a whistle and the flash of a sign, the moment of truth arrives. For it is time to step to the line and confront the excruciating pressure of a crucial free throw. It was a feeling that Larry Bird came to know well on one tension-filled day in the Lone Star State, for the eyes of Texas were upon him.
A game within the game, if you will. Tonight, Larry Bird is chasing Calvin Murphy. 68 free throws in a row. Murphy had 78 to hold the NBA record, and Bird is 16 games without a miss. Bird puts it up on the run, a late whistle, and Larry Bird will shoot two. Oop, it rattled around and went down. Here he goes for number 70.
For Murphy's Houston supporters, it was almost unbearable to watch as the Celtics superstar hit from everywhere and seemed destined to rewrite the record book.
We have got to put pressure on Larry. Forget about that free throw streak, and let's put some pressure on him. He's shooting it too well. He's not trying to go to the line. We've got to force the action to Larry.
And Houston did just that.
Olajuwon shoots it over Klein. Bird with a rebound. Wiggins with a loose ball foul. The buzzing you hear in the crowd is Larry Bird going to the free throw line. Number 71 for Bird. He missed it. Calvin Murphy keeps his streak.
I really don't know at this point how I feel. I just know that there's a big boulder off my shoulders. My little boy had to hold me down in the seat. I'm still very proud of Larry Bird. He had a tremendous streak going, and fortunately for me, he missed. Unfortunately for him, he had to start over with. But I am very, very happy.
Murphy's streak of 78 straight free throws remains unmatched. But even the uncanny accuracy of this former Rocket is overshadowed by the feats of the irrepressible Rick Barry. Because though his unorthodox method may have confounded purists, no one can deny his unquestionable results.
Shooting an underhand just is not the cool thing to do, but I would think results would be what matters. And if you could make more that way and you could help yourself out and in turn help your team, why not do it that way?
Known as history's best free throw shooter by percentage, Barry also enjoyed a spectacular career. Not only was Barry the recipient of numerous honors, but he was also the driving force behind a Golden State Warrior team that won the NBA championship in 1975.
Zelko Jeffrey, here makes the pass to Barry. Barry's got it, the ball game is over, and out are the Golden State Warriors, our champions of the world.
They are basketball's titans. Larger-than-life Terminators who deal cruelly in humiliation.
They are the NBA's premier shot blockers. And they stand mercilessly ready to punish all who dare enter their domain.
When you block a guy's shot, it's just like dunking in his face. You just disrespecting him.
Shot blocking was a thing that was a fun thing. That was a real fun thing.
Surprisingly, it was not Chamberlain, but rather his Laker successor, Elmore Smith, who set the record for the most blocks in a game, rejecting 17 offerings in a single contest in 1973. But, of course, Wilt has his side of the story.
I was more known in my younger days for shot blocking than I was for really scoring points.
But because the statistic was not kept until Chamberlain's playing days were over, Wilt's prodigious efforts went unrecorded.
I used to remember in Phoenix, I blocked 26 shots on Christmas Day. And I remember the guy saying to me, wow, well, man, you just wouldn't let us shoot a ball.
Though Chamberlain might have dominated this statistical category had he been given the chance. Instead, it was his younger adversary, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who possesses the all-time mark, having denied over 3,000 shots in his 20-year tenure in the league. But when measuring history's greatest shot blockers, one looms larger than the rest.
I start every game with the idea that the key is my area, and if you come into my area, you're going to have to deal with me.
At 7'4", 290 pounds, Mark Eaton is basketball's immovable object. Averaging an unprecedented 4.2 block shots per game over the course of his career, he is a giant, even among giants.
You know, it's rough because he's so big. I mean, he's so tall. It's like you standing up next to me.
A lot of times I think it's just the case that guys don't think I'm going to get there. I mean, you know, I'm not very quick, but I'm pretty big, and just because of, you know, timing and wingspan, I can still block the shot.
At his current pace, Eaton will eclipse every shot-blocking mark in the NBA record books. Another player who is seemingly bent on rewriting the record books is Michael Jordan, and he is doing so on both ends of the court.
Wow.
As terrifying on defense as he is on offense,
Wow.
Jordan is the only player in history to amass over 100 blocks and 200 steals in a single season, a measure both of his tenacity and his versatility.
Wow.
Unlike the block shot, the steal is achieved less with force than with finesse. Requiring careful patience and exquisite timing, it's a triumph not only of nimble hands, but also a nimble mind. No one has embodied these qualities more than Maurice Cheeks, who, throughout the years, has used his self-effacing, reflective style to quietly pick more pockets than any other player in history.
You have to gamble. You have to kind of set them up, but I think the most important thing is anticipation. In most cases, you kind of pick on a big guy to kind of steal the ball. You know, usually when he's passing the ball or he's blindsided.
The owner of over 2,000 career thefts. This modest man of steel pulls further away from all competition with every game. While Cheeks is the man for all seasons, Alvin Robertson is the man for one. The season was 1986, and the Spurs master thief would snare over 300 steals, becoming the first man to ever do so. But Robertson would accomplish another basketball rarity, registering a quadruple double in a 1986 game versus the Suns.
steals and the assists and rebounds, those were just hustle plays. I was just out there doing the things that I normally do, and the ball was just coming my way.
Alvin's fortunes were at an all-time high, as his presence proved to be a disruptive force at both ends of the floor. And soon it became clear that it would be Alvin's night.
Robertson knocks away, picked up Matthews. Matthews back the other way, drives on away, dishes it off to Robertson, who puts it down to the slam dunk. Nice play. Matthews on the high post. Robertson can't get that jumper down the line, but he does there. Alvin Robertson, 20 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, and 10 steals tonight. Alvin Robertson with a quadruple double tonight for the San Antonio Spurs.
NBA Goliaths, Nate Thurman, and Hakeem Olajuwon have also reserved a place in history as the only other men to perform this improbable feat. Regarded as one of the most feared defenders of his day, Thurman longed for a more complete recognition of his game.
I was a pretty good scorer, but I think that when I was in college, I was taught to play the total complete game.
Relying on his carefully cultivated skills, Thurman would take his game to another level on the night of October 18th, 1974. Showcasing a multitude of talents, the Bulls center went on to notch the league's first quadruple-double.
There are so many little things that you can do instinctively on a basketball court within every sequence of 24 seconds.
And in 24 seconds, the fiercely determined Olajuwon can perhaps do more damage to the opposition than any other player.
Like Anderson, Olajuwon inside. Maxwell goes to the Robertson, Olajuwon went for the block, didn't get it, gets the rebound. Olajuwon over to Sleepy. Three-pointer. Yes.
I'm just playing my game, just doing whatever it takes for us to win the ball game.
And in one ball game on the 29th of March, 1990, he would do it all against the Bucks, as he was intent on making his assault on history.
46 left to play in the game, and the only secret now, can Hakeem get one more assist for the quadruple-double? First period, Olajuwon back out to 10. Hakeem with a rebound. Gets it back out to Lou. He'll put it up. Yeah, there it is. 18 points, 16 rebounds.
While the quadruple-double is perhaps the height of statistical achievement, this next group of players lay claim to more dubious distinctions. No one has committed more turnovers than Moses Malone. But while Moses is the NBA's most generous when it comes to turning over the ball, he is one of the stingiest in committing fouls. And despite his physical style, he trails only Wilt Chamberlain on the all-time list of infrequent offenders.
I love the ref. Best all the time. The greatest. Sometimes they make great calls, sometimes they make bad calls.
In contrast, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's relationship with the referees was somewhat less blissful. In fact, the Lakers' gentle giant was whistled for more career fouls than anyone in history. But despite Jabbar's impressive numbers, the true master of mayhem was a Laker from another era. It is bruising forward Vern Mickelson, who proudly holds the record for most career disqualifications.
He fouls more than anybody in the game. And he's the nicest guy you ever run into. He's gentle, he's beautiful, but in the ball game, he was tough.
I'm the only one from our era that is still in the record books. I'd have my tongue hanging down to the floor, tired, and I'd be looking over there, get me out, and the only way I could get out was to chop a guy 6 times and go sit down.
And of course, no discussion of the NBA's version of crime and punishment would be complete without Darryl Dawkins, who easily set the single-season mark for frequent fouling.
That one's on Darryl Dawkins. His fifth.
Some fouls I committed, some I never committed. Referees just didn't like me. But part of that was my fault because the referee made a bad call on me. I didn't understand that I was being tested at that point. All I know is he made a bad call. He's a dog and a so-and-so and a so-and-so, and they never forgot that. I thought that, they was giving me a bad cause because I had a lot of girlfriends. And I said, maybe I went out with one of the referee's daughter and broke her heart. So she told her daddy to get him. And he told his buddies, hey, get him. And that's what I figured. Which may still be true. Maybe. One never knows.
And Darrell is going to drop the ball and walk quietly to the bench. To the bench.
To venture beyond the line and take the shot requires daring and unshakable confidence. For in the ever-unfolding drama of NBA basketball, when the game is on the line, it's often this difficult shot on which victory depends. Worth 3 points, not 2. This deadly weapon cannot help but command attention.
Unloads the three. They battle into overtime. Albert King. Barkley for three! Oh, no!
They'll talk about it the rest of your life. Magic fires for three. Got it at the buzzer! Magic hit a three-pointer. The Lakers win.
Harper for three. Online with 1 second to go.
Founded in the ABA, the three-pointer became the rage among smaller players, who, in contrast to their taller peers, were now devastating from the perimeter rather than the paint. But these days in the NBA, the long-range bomb seems to be part of everyone's arsenal.
The boys better hurry up, get out of the ball with it came away. They don't. Oh, Minuta three. Oh, it went in!
That's his shot. Nelly says that's your shot. If you want to take it, you can take it.
But the shot may just belong to Dale Ellis, the game's most lethal marksman. Honing his skills in Dallas,
Ellis fires for twins.
Ellis perfected them with Seattle, becoming the game's most prolific three-point shooter.
Ellis, three, home run.
But neither this three-point assassin nor his fans could have foreseen what would unfold on April 20th, 1990, against the Clippers.
Oh, here we go. Brings it out front to Ellis for three more. Bingo! He's got 5 of them. The record is 8. Now thinking they got a real shot now to be in the playoffs. Ellis to tie the record. Bingo! Get out your eraser.
This is it.
There's for the record. Bingo! Dale Ellis. A new NBA record. 9 threes in a game.
While Ellis overwhelms opponents, the 5'7" Michael Adams befuddles them with a unique offensive repertoire that befits his diminutive stature.
Well, everybody's taller than me out on the floor, so I was just taking practice after little kids where they just throw it up there.
Steal! Adams for three! Hey! Oh! Dribbler and a no-look to Adams. Great pass! He hit it!
Adams' results are no child's play, as he's not only buried at least one bomb in 79 straight games, but has also launched and connected on more three-pointers in one season than any other player. And at this dizzying pace, the onslaught may never end. It is at playoff time, however, where individual achievements become legend, and record-setting performances are the mark of champions. Here, an elite group rises above the rest in their quest for greatness, standing alone not only in their record-breaking efforts, but also in the intensity of their desire.
It takes your best game, offensively and defensively, and then it takes more than that.
In the 1984 playoffs, Bernard King would deliver exactly that.
I was hungry to win a title, as every player is hungry to win it. And so when we went into the playoffs, I felt that I was going to have to take a greater deal of responsibility and load on my shoulders.
And here's King with Benson. Bernard takes it to the hoop.
The Knicks' strategy was simple. Give the ball to Bernard.
King once again. And he has now scored the Knicks' last 9 points.
But King was merely warming up.
For King, and he beats Trapuka, yes! And Bernard King has established a new NBA record, 23 consecutive points
I was at the point I was beside myself. I would say we tried at least 3 or 4 people, and in many instances doubling people, but it really didn't make any difference because he was going to get his no matter what.
King would go on to average more than 40 points a game against the Pistons, smashing Elgin Baylor's 5-game playoff scoring record, and in the decisive 5th game, single-handedly beating them in the clutch.
I guess the ball game was tying up, and the clock was running down, and we called a timeout, and Hubie was designing a play, and I asked Hubie, I said, I was supposed to get the ball on inbounds, and then we were supposed to go into play. I said, Hubie, if I think I can take him, can I take it myself?
We never had to worry with the Knicks at that time who was going to take the last shot because he wanted that last shot.
Here's King moving on.
I don't recall who it was, but he said, come on and take me.
Here's King over Jordan. Yes! Bernard King has given it.
I've been around Bernard King when he has played big. But in that playoff, in that 4th quarter, and then into the 5th quarter, Bernard King just would not let us lose.
Though records seem made to be broken, the memories of great performances are destined to endure. In the quiet pregame of Game 5 of the 1962 finals, Boston seemed strangely anxious. But as game time approached, their vague unrest would take shape in the person of Elgin Baylor. All eyes were riveted on the Lakers' explosive forward, as he always seemed to save his best for his longtime nemesis. Great players perform to expectations. Baylor would exceed them.
How about carrying the ball, Mendy, one time, huh?
Celtic strategy was useless, as Baylor was simply unstoppable.
The thing I remember most about that game was that Elgin Baylor had been so good, he fouled everyone out, all the forwards out.
5 guys, get me the ball. Don't let everybody go after the ball.
But the ball belonged to Baylor.
I remember the game very well because, the crowd have always been responsive to me and the Lakers there. It's the fact that I scored 61 points, but they won the series.
Though victory would ultimately belong to the Celtics, an indelible place in NBA history belonged to Baylor.
Elgin was that spectacular where he literally became the first guy that couldn't be stopped. Regardless of defensive pressure, he was going to get his points. Now there are a lot of players like that because the offensive skills in the last 20 years have gone through the ceiling in basketball.
Through the ceiling and out into the air. In 1989, Michael Jordan would shatter Bernard King's mark for points in a 5-game playoff series. 3 years earlier, he had also swept aside Baylor's single-game playoff mark, shattering the record on the same floor on which Elgin had set it.
Jordan trying to fake Burke.
When I'm on my game, when I'm really on like I was in Boston, I don't think there's too many people that can stop me. I don't think there's anybody can stop me.
Drive across the lane, turnaround shot, got it! 63 for Jordan! A new NBA record has been set in the Boston Garden.
The time was right for me to do that. CBS game, everybody's watching, you're playing the Celtics. So it was a great scene set. All I had to do is go in and perform and act.
But no one puts on more of a show at playoff time than Irvin Johnson. Dishing out more assists than any other player in playoff history, Magic has electrified audiences coast to coast. But it is his unsurpassed desire that has made him one of history's greatest winners.
I want to win. And that's why I play, because I want to win. Not just to be playing, not just to make a lot of money. I want to win. and I'm not selling them for nothing less than winning.
It is another Laker, Hall of Fame guard Jerry West, who owns the postseason's highest scoring average for a single series. But it was not just scoring 46 points a game that earned West his nickname, Mr. Clutch.
You know, I accomplished an awful lot as a player, and I'm very proud of what I accomplished, but rewards come from within, and they mean a lot more when they come from within.
It was an attitude he shared with teammate Pat Riley. West would become the Lakers' general manager. Riley, its coach.
And I'm guaranteeing everybody here, next year we're going to win it again.
In his quest for back-to-back titles, Riley's efforts earned him the most postseason wins of all time. But when it comes to savoring the sweet taste of victory, no one has surpassed Red Auerbach.
Well, Red, I think, was a basketball genius. What Red would do was make you contribute ideas. He would make you think.
Well, once we get it, then run, okay? Let's step into him. Come on, Stash, keep Hawkins up. Let's go.
So just by his presence, there's some kind of roar about him that it makes you play harder.
It is an aura built on a legacy of unmatched success.
When I look around at all those flags up there, I really feel really great because they mean more to me than flags. They mean people. They mean paying the price for victory.
Although time passes even the greatest players by, the milestones endure.